Graham Potter's not a good enough coach for Chelsea right now. Maybe in a couple of years, maybe he needs one more job. Maybe he shouldn't have jumped ship as quickly as he did when he was at Brighton. But then again, when opportunity calls, you have to try and take advantage of it, right? Maybe not sometimes. Maybe you have to try and solidify something and have tangible results in order to make that next step. And I think that's where Graham Potter ends up making a mistake. Obviously, the money is temptation. The allure of a club like Chelsea is also a huge temptation. It's seductive from a career standpoint, making that jump. But maybe making the jump too soon ends up being something you lament in the long run. Maybe there was a little bit more time that he needed in order to understand dressing rooms, like a Chelsea, for example. Maybe he needs a little bit more time to develop certain adjustments that need to be made. The demands at a club like Chelsea are much greater than at Brighton. It's reality. It's not being disrespectful. It's not being denigrating of what Brighton's been able to do. But the pedigree that over the last 15 years plus, almost 20 years, that Chelsea have been able to create in European football, it speaks for itself. So I really have to go and say that he's not ready for this job. He's maybe a little bit over his head, to be quite honest. But that's not his fault and his fault alone. You have to start looking at the board. You have to start looking at the owners. Todd Boehly doesn't know the difference between a goal and third base. The scouting at Chelsea is, well, how should we say, leaving much to be desired, because they look at the hot commodity instead of going and delving into the grassroots of football and looking for those young diamonds in the rough. Instead, they're willing to pay big bucks for big players. I understand that's always how Chelsea has been, but there's been times that Chelsea have also come through and have looked at younger players. And maybe that's the time to start looking at younger players now in order to make a team more competitive internally. And also looking at players that can be a long-term solution. Yes, the players that they've bought can be long-term solutions, but if you're going to spend that much money on players, fans aren't going to expect a player that you paid 60, 70, 80, 100 plus to start being contributors next season after next. No, it has to be immediate. And in some cases, it's not going to work that way. Some it will, some it won't. But unfortunately, that's the situation that Chelsea finds themselves. And it has to do a lot with the club at various levels.